Hi, this is Pastor Dan from Desert Rain Church in Downey, and this is our Wednesday win for this evening. Our Wednesday wins are testimonies from some of the folks in our church, and they tell their story of what the Lord did in their lives. And tonight we get to listen to one of our dear sisters from our church. Her name is Helen Torres. So sit back and enjoy this testimony.
Hi everyone, my name is Helen, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share God's love and faithfulness in my life. He has worked tremendously in my life and has truly showed how faithful He is to fulfill the purpose in my life. And I want to share that, and I pray that my testimony is a blessing to you to give you hope and know that God is faithful and He will fulfill the purpose in your life. I want to share a Bible verse that impacted my life, changed my life forever. I was in a very dark place when I came across this verse. So it is in Philippians 4:6-7. It says, "Don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all that He has done. And then you will experience the peace that surpasses all understanding." And that verse touched my life forever. When I read this verse, at first I didn't think much of it, and then I came across it again 3 times. I came across it again and again. And every time I read it, I felt something in me, and I knew that it was God talking to me. So there it was where I knew that God was working in my life, and God wanted to do something in my life. It was time for a change. So I want to start off first off with sharing that I have amazing parents. I was blessed with the most amazing parents I could ever ask for. I was born in a Christian home, and I was raised as a Christian. Since I can remember, he used to repeat this to me, and he used to tell me, "You are a very special girl." And obviously, all our parents think that way about us, but my dad just very much enforced this in my mind. And he will always tell me, "You are a very special girl. You have a very special blessing in your life from God, and you have a very special purpose for your life." And he said that when I got blessed as a baby, the pastor that blessed me said that I would be blessed in a very special way. Later on, a couple years later, my parents went to this one church, and my dad said that this woman came to them and she prophesied for my life. And it was a confirmation of what the pastor had said when he blessed me. And she had told them that I will be blessed by the Lord in a very special way, and in due time I will experience those blessings one by one. As a little girl, I grew up not really, experiencing much throughout my whole childhood, teenage years. I was happy, healthy, and everything was good. However, I did encounter some stuff, and my life wasn't perfect. Between the 1st grade and 4th grade, I experienced some time where I had difficult times in school. I never spoke in school. I spoke at home and everywhere else, but I will never speak in school. My teachers, my friends, nobody had ever heard my voice, literally, for those years. And nobody knew why. Nobody ever understood. And that affected me because it affected my self-esteem. I had gotten bullied. I went through many different things because of that. And when I went into middle school, I had difficulties educational. And that affected me a lot because I got bullied, I got made fun of. And so once I got into my teenage years in middle school, I wanted to fit in. So I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I began trying to fit in. I hang out with all the popular people, and I was always in their crowd, but I never was able to actually fully be like them because of the parents that I had. They were very strict. They were they always took care of me and guided me into the right path. And so I was kind of like going in and out, but I was sort of in between. I had a boyfriend, my dad found out, and he got really upset. He moved me from school, we moved from home, and that is when I realized I had to make a change and focus in my life, focus in my education, and graduate. So I did. I graduated in 2006, 17 years old. I started working, I started going to college, I got my car, everything you can think of as a teenage kid, who gets out of high school and, wants to start life. However, at that time, I didn't really have God in my life. I knew all my life about God, but I had never encountered a connection with God. And so, being out in the world, working, going to school, being an adult when I turned 18 and everything, I started going out. I never went to a club. I never did anything like drugs or drink or anything like that, but I did meet someone, and it was someone that was my boyfriend my parents did not approve of. When I was 19 years old, I encountered a time in my life where it was scary. I was in a bicycle with this boyfriend, and we were just getting off the bus, and we went on this bike. We were on a ramp down the freeway, and I was sitting in the middle of the bike, and he was sitting on the seat. And as we were going down, the tire of the bike got stuck in a pothole. So we flew, and I flew out. I practically could have died. I had no helmet, I had nothing. That is a time of my life where God proved that He had a purpose for my life, and there was more to my life. And so I remember waking up at the hospital, parents being there. It was pretty scary, but thank God I was okay. Shortly after that, that boyfriend and I broke up, and I met my girl's father. And I met him, and we, started a relationship. My parents didn't really approve of him as well. At that moment, he wasn't Christian, and my parents were kind of against that, but I still went against everything and everyone, and we got married. He had 2 children himself, and I became a mom before I even gave birth, and I love these kids with all my heart. So I became a mom to them, and we got married. I went against everyone and everything, and I stopped working, going to school and everything to take care of them. Shortly after we got married, 3 months in, I got pregnant. This was in 2010, and I had my first daughter, Gracie, 2011. Once I had her, I started experiencing very deep depression and anxiety. I kind of linked it to, postpartum depression and everything, but now that I look back and think of it, I don't know if it was truly that, because it was for many years. So from 2010 to 2019, I experienced the worst anxiety and depression you can think of. I literally felt like I was gonna go crazy. Many times I went to ERs. I thought I was gonna die. It was the worst. I used to lay down on my bed and pray to God to take my life, because I found no purpose in it. There was no meaning to it. There was no happiness. There was nothing. I was living very abusive and toxic relationship. It wasn't a good, healthy lifestyle, and there was so much in it that affected me. And so I went through a period of time in 2019 where that's where God started working in my life, and He started working in my life drastically. Rewinding a little bit, throughout these 2010 to 2019, throughout these years, as I was living that very unhealthy life, I learned how to surrender to God. So throughout these years, as I said, I grew up in a Christian home. I knew about God all my life. But it wasn't until I came here to Desert Rain, to be honest. I came to Desert Rain in a moment where I was just giving up in everything in my life. My youngest daughter, who is now 5, was 2 years old when we came here. And I remember coming to church. We went to the Spanish ministry, and I remember Sister Lorena and Sister Brandy praying for me when I went up to the altar. And their prayers was so powerful over me, and the pastor that prayed at that time also, like, he was preaching and I was crying because I just felt God in my heart, and I knew that this was the right place for us to be as a family back then. When I came here, and even though I grew up in a Christian home, there was something in me that always contained me from surrendering to God. Like, I was embarrassed, I was shy to like raise my hands or pray to God out loud or anything in that matter. And when I went deeper into my experience of going through all those hard times that I was going through, I decided I had to surrender to God for Him to be able to work in my life. And so I began to surrender to Him. I started raising my hands and I started praying. I will close my doors in my room and I will get on my knees and I will pray. I will pray over my husband. I would pray over my family. I will pray over my situation, my health, and just the anxiety, the depression that I had, everything. And I completely surrendered to Him, and I would cry so much, and I just felt at one point that at some point I felt like that my faith was done and gone. Like, at some point I felt like, is there even a God? Because I felt like there was no light. I felt like there was no future. I wanted to die. I felt worthless. I felt like there was no meaning. Like, the world was better off without me. I never became, thankfully, suicidal or anything like that, but I did have those thoughts that life was better without me because of how bad I felt that things were, and I will blame myself. So here comes 2019, where I started experiencing a lot of health issues. In 2018, December 2018, I lost one of my special aunts to me, and it hit me really hard because she was very close to me. And so when 2019 comes and I start going through all these health issues, I started kind of linking it to my aunt, and I was very scared. I was in so much fear, but I had to go through a lot of things to learn how to have that faith in God. And I had to go through CT scans, ultrasounds, endoscopy, colonoscopy, all these ultrasounds. I've never had a surgery. I've never had really any health issues until then. And so I was scared for my life. I was scared that they would find something wrong, or that was the end of my life, like God was gonna answer my prayers or something. And I was scared, but at some point through it all, I was like, okay, I have to do it, and I'm gonna do it for my aunt, because my aunt wasn't okay mentally to proceed with all those procedures that they needed to do for her, and she ended up in a hospital and she didn't wake up. So I was scared for my life that I would go through the same thing, and so I ended up going through all those stuff, and each time that I would go through any procedure, I put myself in God's hands and had faith that everything was going to be okay no matter the outcome. So in 2019 was a year of experiences for me that helped me build myself, my strength, my faith in God again. And so in March 2019, I had an experience that I encountered that I never thought I would. I experienced the death of my neighbor. So I went So I was home, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was gonna go to the library, and I was gonna get my laptop from the garage. So I go in the garage and I find my neighbor hanging there. And that was very scary and traumatic experience. At that moment, I don't know how, it was all God. Like, I don't know how I even functioned. I ran, I got my daughter, and I called 911, and all that happened. But what I didn't really understand was after that, how I was okay. After going through that, something like that, most people need therapy, or, they stay, it affects them in some way. And it did to me. For a couple of weeks, I was scared to even go in my car, go anywhere, be at home. It was scary, but I said, no, I'm no longer going to live in fear. I'm no longer going to feel this anxiety. There has to be a change. There has to be something that has to stop this, and I know that God can do it. So at that very moment is when I started knowing how to declare God's word in my life. So I started saying my favorite verses of God. God is with me. God loves me. God is faithful. He will never leave you. All that, and I would say it all the time. And so that is when God revealed this verse to me, Philippians 4:6-7, and it's when it clicked in my mind where God can give you the peace that surpasses all understanding. So what does that mean? That means that we are humans, and our mental capacity it only goes to a certain limit. And so that means that there's a peace that we know, but then there's also a peace that surpasses all understanding that God can give you and that you can experience. And I believe that, and I declared that for my life, and I knew that God had something better for me, that if it was something that was proclaimed in my life, that it was prophesied, that my father always told me that there was a purpose for my life, then if there was a God, that it would happen and it would be fulfilled. And so I went through that experience. I came across this verse, and then shortly after that, I went through many more experiences. One of them being our oldest son then leaving the house, my youngest daughter going through surgery, and then I hadn't worked for 10 years outside of the house, and that was a big fear that I had. For those years, all those years, I was pretty much non-existent. I wouldn't drive. Every time I would go to the grocery store, I had so much shortness of breath. I couldn't function as a human being. We couldn't really go any place because I felt all this anxiety all the time, this depression, and it was just the lifestyle that I was living. There was drugs involved, drinking, abuse, and it was so unhealthy, and I never really saw how much it affected me till I put everything in perspective. And so in 2019, as I go through all these experiences, I realized that there was more out there, that I was worth something, that I can be strong, because I went through all that and God enabled me to go through it. And I started learning my worth, and he worked in my life in 2019. I remember in August 2019 when the kids started the school year, that same day, because of everything that I had been through, I was like, they were on vacation and then they were going back to school. I was like, I'm not gonna stay home alone, so I'm gonna get out to work. So that first day I had no shot. I had no interview, nothing, but I still got dressed like I had an interview. So I got dressed, dropped off all the kids to school, and I was like, I'm gonna go find a job. And so I went to an agency, which was the only thing I had in my mind to apply. And then while I was making my breakfast, I was sending my resume through email and all that. And didn't think nothing was gonna come up, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. I have to do something to start off to find a job. That same day, shortly before the kids came out of school, I got an email back, and it was from the Harley Davidson company, and they they emailed me and asked me if I wanted to come into the interview that day. I felt really good about it, but you know when you go to an interview and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get it, but you get your hopes high, and then you're like scared that it's not gonna happen. So I didn't allow myself to get my hopes high, but I felt that great feeling that I knew that God was working there. And so I didn't really think too much of it, but then I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. So the lady told me, that was on a Tuesday, and she told me, okay, so by Friday we'll let you know if you know we are hiring you, we'll call you by Friday. And I'm like, okay. And so I left, and as I was driving, I was listening to this song called Symphony. And every word of that song just spoke to me, and it was like that confirmation that job at that moment was already for me. And so I left, and then the next day I get an email, and they tell me, we would like you to work with us, and we would like you to start on Monday, which was the following week. They didn't even have like a full day to think of this, but they gave me the job. And so that was a great blessing in how God worked. After 10 years of not working, I had not had like much experience. I had different jobs in my past when I graduated high school till the day I got married, but that was like a long time ago. And to get a job, like to work in an office and everything, you know, sometimes you need certain experiences. I barely even knew how to work like Word and Excel. I told them I kind of had an idea what QuickBooks was, but I didn't even know how it looked. So that's something that, you know, I learned, and they trained you and stuff. So I just had faith in God that I was going to be able to do it. So I got the job, and then another difficult time came around in my life in 2019 where I had to make a decision that really, really was hard to make, because not necessarily for myself, because I had gone through a certain experience throughout the years where I went through that pain already, but more so for the kids. So in total we had 4 kids, my girl's father and I. And so I made the decision to have a separation because it was just not healthy. And so in 2019, November, right before Thanksgiving, there was a situation that happened, and on that day, I felt like that was the day that I needed to make that change. And so I did. And it was a difficult time for each one of us, but every time that I will hear people's comments and I will see my kids in sadness and pain, when I would look in my heart and when I would pray about it, I knew that it was the best decision that I could have made, and it was the right decision because I felt peace and I was happy. And even though it was painful to see my children, the sadness and everything they went through, I knew it was for a better life. And so I went through that. I moved in back to my parents. I rented a room there, and I stayed with them from November 2019 to July 2020. So this year overall has been an eventful year for everyone because of the whole COVID-19 and everything, and if I wasn't already going through enough already, right? So in March 2020, this year, I got laid off from my job because of the pandemic. They closed down and my whole world came down. I was a single mom. Yes, I was living at my parents', but it wasn't free. I still had responsibilities, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. But God knew what He was doing. And so I had about, I would say almost 3 months that I didn't really know what I was gonna do. For 2 months I went into depression again because I felt like that was it. What are we gonna do now? This pandemic has everything closed. I had my girls 24/7. They were not going with their dad then because, you know, trying to protect them. And it was just, I had no shot. There was no way that I was going to be able to go out to work. Everybody else was working. Nobody was going to try to babysit. There was just nothing I could do about it. So one day I just said, you know what, stop complaining, stop whining. just have faith in God. And so work with what you have. So I did. And so I had the blessing, with the unemployment and the pandemic help that they gave, and God blessed me, and I was able to invest. So I invested like in a new camera, because I used to do YouTube videos. So I invested in a camera, a laptop, I got a Cricut machine, because I used to have a little business with the Cricut machine, and I was like, I got this, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna make it work, and we'll go from there. I'm not kidding. Once I received everything in the mail, I get a text message from one of my good friends, Sister Lorena, and she told me about a position available at our church Christian school. And I was like, when she texted me and I read that it was on a Thursday night, and I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, just the thought of it. I told her, yes, I will go to the interview, but a million things went through my mind, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to go out to work. I had been home for like almost 3 months, 24/7. I would literally only go out to go get groceries, and I was just like, there's no way where I'm gonna leave the girls, everybody works. But by the time I made the decision to go to the interview, I didn't even have the clothes for an interview in my closet. I found the best thing I could put together, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. And she gave me the option of going on Friday or Monday, but I'm just like, I'll just do it on Friday and we'll go. So I got ready. As I was getting ready and going, my mom, I remember her telling me, I don't think this is a good idea, the girls, the whole virus, pandemic and everything. And, I love my mom, but, she worries, and I understand her, but I was just like, it's okay, Mom. If it's for me, I'm gonna get the job, and everything's gonna work out. At this moment, I still didn't know where I was gonna lead my girls. So when I go to the interview, Mr. R, which is what we call him at school, which is Brother Steve, Sister Lorena's husband, he interviewed me, and we prayed, and I was nervous because I was like, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, but he gave me the job. I was blessed once again with an amazing job, and also I had the opportunity, the chance to have my girls in that school. So that was something my dad always told me. You should try to put the girls in a Christian school. It will be good for them and everything. And I always said, nah, Dad, it's okay. I grew up in a regular school. They'll be fine. But now that I have them in the school and I see the difference in their life, how they learn about God, how much better it is, quality education, I see the worth of it. And it's a true blessing to be able to work through this whole time, and then have my girls there at the same time. And so in July, I encountered an experience with my family, not in my immediate home, but next door with one of our family members, and I had to move out. So I got the job in school on June, and then in July, I had to move out. So that was something I was not prepared for at all. But it was something that I had to do. So I did, and it was very scary. I pretty much had no home to bring my girls to for 2 months. I was blessed to be able to have amazing friends who lend us their home to be in. For those 2 months, I was able to save up money, and in September, I was able to find an apartment. So the way I got this apartment was a blessing as well, just like when God blessed me with my jobs, because every apartment I would go see, as soon as I told them it was me and my daughters, no, because I wasn't making enough money for, like, they want triple the rent amount. And, I was looking into obviously smaller places because I'm starting off, and they didn't want that much people in there. So I remember I will always talk to Sister Priscilla about this, and she will always encourage me. But when I told her about this one apartment, she told me, that is where you're gonna go, and this lady's going to help you, and she's going to bless you. I can feel it. And I was like, okay. But it was, this lady that I rent the apartment from, it's a true blessing. That's just how God works, you know. When it's for you, He will bless you. And so I got my apartment in September. Now we're 4 months in, and I am truly blessed. I was able to save enough money. I know that most people, when they move into their place, they're not able to have everything they need or want. By the grace of God, I was able to have and buy everything by the time I moved in, everything that I needed and that I wanted. And it was just mind-blowing because I didn't think I was going to be capable of that, not even a year in after separating. I mean, being a single mom with 2 kids, it's difficult out there, but I was able to get there because of God's grace of blessing me with these opportunities. And so I want to end with sharing with you that no matter how hard life is, no matter how much pain you're going through or difficult times you're going through, don't lose your faith in God. Don't lose hope in Him, because He is faithful and He will fulfill the purpose in your life. We each have a purpose that He wants to fulfill, but sometimes we neglect that. We kind of stop it because we become stubborn, because we don't allow Him to work in our lives. You know, we need to surrender to Him. That is all He wants, for us to surrender and have complete faith in Him, because He is the only one that can truly be there for you and love you and take care of you, and He's all for you. And so I just want to share that testimony with you, because I believe that because I went through all that, I didn't understand at the time. I was scared and I was like, why me? Why I have to go through this? But now I've always had that in my heart, that one way or another there was going to be a way that I was going to be able to share this one day, because it will help someone else out there that maybe is going through the same thing or something similar. And I remember feeling so alone and like I couldn't connect with anyone, nobody, that I was the only one going through that. But that is not true. We all go through something and we're not perfect, but in God's eyes, we are loved just how we are. And all you need to do is just come to Him and surrender to Him, and He will do the rest. And yeah, I hope this was a blessing to you, and thank you for watching this video.
Wow, wasn't that just an awesome testimony of how God is there waiting for you, and when we finally decide to surrender, that He comes in and He pours His love on you, and just changes your life. I mean, the one scripture that Helen used, Philippians 4:6-7, about not worrying about anything, but praying about everything, and how that prayer, and how we come before Him, and how we surrender. That's when the Lord gives us that peace that surpasses all understanding. That's just a miracle. It's a scripture that can change your life. And I just encourage you today, if you have anxiety today, if you're worrying about something, if you're going through something, that you would just pray about it. Take it to the Lord, and let's just see what He would do with it. Amen. So God bless you, and have a wonderful evening.